Hello YouTube land, and welcome back to my channel. This week's video is 5 easy DIYs home decor. I wanted to show you how I make my DIYs out of air drying clay. Hopefully these are easy tutorials. As always, if you like this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel for more content on home decor, and don't hesitate to share it with anyone you think would like it. Oh, and I would love to know in the comments down below if you would like to see more of this type of content on my channel. Alright, let's start the video. To begin with, I simply decided to look for inspiration. For this process, I used my Apartamento magazine book, as well as the new book I got for my birthday called Africa State of Mind. Thanks, Samir, for the gift. I also added a notebook just so I would be able to draw anything that caught my eye. Mostly in this process, I got inspired by colors, but also sometimes by shape. I knew I was going to make a candle holder, probably a jewelry box, and maybe a vase or a bowl. I really enjoyed taking the time to draw what I wanted to see. Here is a list of what I use for my DIY home decor: air drying clay, but also brushes to paint after paint, as well as some of my favorite tools that I use when I am working with clay. Something I find quite useful is drawing a pattern. It's helpful because it helps me figure out how big I want my air drying clay creation to be. Here I am starting with the jewelry box. FYI, the clay that I'm using is quite old. I think it's a month or maybe 2 months old. I had previously used a little bit of it, which is why it looks pretty dry and it's difficult to cut. I also bought more clay for this video, but I really wanted to use the one that I had. So even though it looks like I'm struggling at the beginning, because I was, it ended up working out pretty well once I started adding water to the mix. Yeah, I guess that's a tip I can share with you all. If you have some clay and that it's dried up, you can add some water and then it will make it easy to use. Here I am starting with the top of the jewelry box. As I was molding the clay, I already knew the shape I wanted it to have. As you can see, there is a lot of handprints because I like what I make out of clay to look a little handmade and even raw or rough. I am once again adding water because, as I've explained previously, the clay is pretty dry. Don't worry, I know it looks a little bit messy, but I ended up making it work. If you have a knife or any utensil you can use, it can definitely help you smooth any mistake you made, or if you see that the air drying clay is dry or cracking, then adding some water with the utensil will definitely help out. Now that I'm done with the top, I can focus on the base. As you can see, the process is pretty easy. Basically, I am using the top to make sure that the base has approximately the same size, and then I am running over with my knife and some water to make sure that everything is smooth. Once I have the bottom of the base, then I simply take some more clay to create the sides. I'm not sure that's the English for it, but you know what I mean, you know, everything that goes around it. Side note, I think it's time for me to invest in new tools and maybe some that are a little more precise. I have been working with what I have and it works pretty well, but I can see as I'm editing the video that, yeah, it might be time to invest in new things. Anyways, as you can see, once again, I am smoothing out the top of the bottom part of the jewelry box. I ended up making it a little bit smaller because as I was working with the clay and the top, I decided that I wanted the bottom part of the jewelry box to be slightly smaller than the top part, just so that the top part can cover the bottom part. And here I am once again using some clay, some water, and my trusted knife to close up the parts that were left opened. Et voilà! Here it is. We have the jewelry box. Okay, now on to the candle holder. I have to say, I kind of struggled with that one. To begin with, I had this idea of making a candle holder that was going to be made of a base and then something that would go up where I could put my candle on, but that ended up not really working out the way I wanted to. So after a few trials and error, I decided to go the safest route with a candle holder that would hold a shape I knew how to make, and I decided to use my candle for reference. I made a sort of flower-ish form, I'm not sure. Okay, on to number 3 now. Side note, do you see how much easier it is for me to work with the clay, because this is a new batch and therefore I don't really have to work hard with the water or even just to mold it. Anyways, I hadn't planned to make this. It is also, I guess, a jewelry box, even though that one is very small. I thought it would be really cute to hold my rings. And if you can see, the method that I am using is quite different from previously. I think this is actually a method that I'm going to be keeping. Basically, what I did is I molded the clay to the shape I wanted my object to take, and then I decided to divide it, and then, as you will be able to see, I carved inside the parts to make space for me to put the jewelry. Hopefully that makes sense, but basically what I'm trying to say is, instead of going from nothing and trying to create the shape, I decided to create the shape and then kind of take out the excess clay from inside of it. It makes it way easier to work with the clay, and I definitely noticed that this box in particular ended up being very symmetrical, and I think it's because I worked from one shape, dividing it, instead of making one and then another one. Here I am working on the top part of the, let's call it the small jewelry box. I am adding a little bit of clay to create the sides of the box, and we're on to the next one. This time around, I wanted to make a decorative bowl, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a little difficult. I think it's because when I work with clay, I sort of work visually and intuitively, so I don't really have guidelines as far as a set process. But basically what you see me doing right now is work with a, once again, pattern that I made myself, just to give me an idea of how deep I want the base to be. And then, using the technique that I mentioned a little bit earlier, I am now carving out clay from inside of the decorative bowl that I am making. And today is day 2. I ended up letting everything I made dry overnight. And you know what? I think it looks pretty okay. I remember being a bit scared of what it was going to look like and whether or not it was going to work, but as I am laying everything on the table once again, I was pretty happy with the result. I will say it took a little longer to dry, and since I had some clay left, I decided to work on my favorite thing to make, which is dun da da da, an incense burner. This time around, I wanted to make a very small one. And once again, you see me using what is, I think now my favorite technique, which is to create the shape and then carve what you need from your shape. So basically now that I have the little ball that I wanted, I am going around with a tool this time that I forgot I had, I guess, to just take out the excess clay. That was a pretty easy process, especially because the clay was very tender. Once I was done and finished carving, it was time to make some openings using another tool so that the smoke would be able to leave the incense burner. Then I created a top opening. On the bottom, the process was pretty similar. And once I was done, I used some water and some clay to make sure that my incense burner looked good. Here you can see me adding a little bit to the upper part of the incense burner. I really like when it has a sort of chimney. Once I was done, I looked at my DIYs to see which one had maybe cracked or needed some love. I also decided to add a little handle on top of my incense burner. After that, I left everything to dry for the rest of the day. Here they are. As you can see, by the way, I ended up making a small tray for incense. And I added a heart on the bottom part of the ring box. Interestingly enough, I really thought this process would take me 2 days top, but yeah, I forgot the clay takes a while to dry completely. It is now day 3 and all I have to do is paint, which I think is my favorite part of making any DIY out of clay. I started with my ring jewelry box and I wanted a very simple but striking look. So what I did is paint the box in white, which was a very simple and casual look. And then I wanted to add a little bit of fantasy for the color of the heart. I'm going step by step because I have to let the paint dry before I work on the heart. So now I decided to work on my tray. This is one of the things that I did on day 2 since I had some clay left. As you can see, it's a pretty simple shape and I also want it to be a very casual and neutral color since I want to be able to place it anywhere in my apartment. Look at my incense burner, y'all. How cute is it? I really love how it turned out, and I think that the little handle makes it really stand out. Anyways, I also went for a white/beige color because once again, I just want to be able to place them anywhere I want in my apartment. I ended up adding a little bit more white, so it is slightly lighter than the tray. And here I am using a little bit of cotton to go on the parts that are difficult to access with a brush. On the inside, I thought of using a bit of a warmer color just because I like the contrast. First it was yellow, but then I thought that orange would work a bit better, so here I am applying the paint. And here is the finished look. From the beginning, I really wanted my jewelry box to be a buttermilk type of color, so that's why, as you can see, this is the color that I am applying to the jewelry box. honestly, I think it turned out pretty well. I really enjoy the color and even the shape of it. Now that the ring box has dried a little bit, I can come back with the red for the heart in the middle. I honestly really like the contrast between the white and the red. And I liked it so much that I decided to add a little bit of a something on the other side of the box. So another heart. Okay. For the decorative bowl, I wanted something very simple once again, so I went for black, one of my favorite color. As you can see, it's pretty simple, no-brainer, just taking the paint and applying it everywhere on the bowl, which also turned out to be really good when I remember what it looked like to begin with. And this is the almost final result. Now for the candle holder, to be completely honest, I wasn't really sure what to do as far as colors. I think that out of everything that I made, this was my least favorite shade, but I decided to go for pink and red together. Now on the jewelry box, even though I enjoyed the buttermilk color, I thought that it looked still a little bit simple, so I don't know. I was inspired to add some dots on it, and thank you God for inspiration, because I think it turned out really, really well. As you can see, to add the dots, I am using some cotton tips and just using the shape to add the dots on the top and the bottom parts of the jewelry box. This was a pretty simple and easeful process. And when I finished, I also wanted to add smaller dots inside of the box. Since I thought that the candle holder was still simple and I wanted to make it a bit more fun, I decided to add the shape of the flower on top at the base of the candle holder. And to finish the look, I added some black inside, and to be honest, I'm not sure I love it. So I might go ahead and add some white instead. This last step, if I'm being honest, I wasn't sure was needed, but I ended up using some polish, hopefully that's what it's called, on everything that I made, all of my DIYs. It was my first time doing it, and yeah, that was a good idea because it really made them come together. Honestly, I was so obsessed with it that I ended up even taking old DIYs and applying a coat on top of them. What's really cool is that it dries super fast, so I was able to apply, I believe, 2 coats. Yep, that's how many coats I applied. And yeah, in like 5 minutes they were dry and ready to use. Yep, as I mentioned earlier, I grabbed some of my previous DIYs and applied some polish on them. I now present to you the finished result. As you can see, it's very simple. I wanted something like this to be able to put my oils, flower essences for a first time. I think it's not too shabby. Next is the incense burner, and again, really obsessed. I think it's one of the favorites of all of my DIYs. For my tray, if you can see, there's some specks on it. It's actually dried clay that I ended up adding for a bit of texture. Here you have the jewelry box that is so cute, and I know it looks a little wonky as far as the edges, but for me, that's kind of what I wanted it to look like. I really didn't want it to be perfect. Here you have a tray that I made, I think 2 years ago now. Here you have my ring tray or ring box. I really like what it looks like. This is the candle holder, another candle holder, and my bigger incense burner. So to finish this video, and I know it's already really long, I just wanted to show you where I am going to put everything. First is my candle holder. I am putting it back in the dining room. Then we have the incense burner that's going back on the tray on my vanity table. And at first I put my older tray back there, but I then remembered that I had made a jewelry box for that effect. So what I ended up doing is just transferring most of my everyday jewelry in the box I made. Honestly, I really love the color, and I also like that it's black and white. I think it looks really good in the space. Next up is my decorative bowl. I really like it. I think it looks so cute and so simple as I want it. As I mentioned previously, I wanted to be able to put my oil and my flower essences there for easy access in the morning. Finally, we have my baby incense burner. Honestly, again, I know I keep saying I'm obsessed, but I really am. I think it's so cute. I put it on one of my shelves. What I ended up doing is styling my coffee table, and it needed styling. It had been a while. So I am just adding a few different books and Palo Santo, because at this point, if you've been on my channel before, you know it's a love story between Palo Santo and I. And yeah, I'm just adding the tray that I made with some Palo Santo for easy access. And I am also putting my ring box on the table. This is the final look with everything that I made. I hope you enjoyed watching me making it, and that it will inspire you to do something maybe similar or completely different, but yours anyway.